Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Concerts That Made Us. I'm your host Brian, and before we get into it, this week's music trivia question is: which pop star slash superstar dyes their hair platinum blonde so that they're not mistaken for Amy Winehouse? I'll give you a little clue. She's named after a Queen song. This one should be pretty easy, but tune in next week to hear the answer. Now, my guest this week, I'm very excited about this one. It's a first for us here at Concerts That Made Us. It's a pop musician. Her name is Merlin. She was born and raised in Germany and Albania before settling in Boston. She has embraced her European story as an influence and cornerstone for her life and sound. At a young age, she used music as a means to learn English, and from that began a euphoric musical exploration that became a career. Now, I really enjoyed chatting with Merlin, and I'm super excited for you guys to hear it. So, without further ado, let's get on with the show.
Not meant to be owned. I feel alive, all on my own. You don't know what my value is. Priceless is more like it. Smile, yeah, smile for me. You're so pretty, yeah, I've heard it all before. You got nothing new to show. Say I'm about to lose it all, but you've already lost me. You can't touch this. Pull you in and out of focus. You can't touch this. It's not yours to take. You can't touch this. Pull you in and out of focus. You can't touch this. It's not yours to take. You see it, you want it, respect it. 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 Peace of mind, can you handle me, myself and I? Good on my own, so save your breath. Don't go wasting it, my time is precious like diamonds. Smile, yeah, smile for me. You're so pretty, yeah, I've heard it all before. You've got nothing new to show. Thought that you could take me home, but you'll be waking up alone. You can't touch this. Pull you in and out of focus. You can't touch this. It's not yours to take. You can't touch this. Pull you in and out of focus. You can't touch this. It's not yours to take. You see it, you want it, respect it. You see it, you want it, respect it. You see it, you want it, respect it. You see it, you want it, respect it.
Merlin, you're very welcome to Concerts That Made Us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
No problem. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, just trying to wrap up this incredibly frustrating and amazing year.
Yeah, it's kind of, a lot of people are glad it's coming to an end now.
Need a fresh start. Need to get some new ground and just go on from there.
Exactly, exactly. I always find it's kind of an exciting time of year because, it's a new beginning and new prospects, stuff like that,
I agree. Time to set those new goals and then charge at them.
Exactly, exactly. So before we get into your history and introduce you to the listeners, we just heard your song Can't Touch This. Would you like to tell us a bit about it?
So it's I feel like my ladies get it most. It's basically you're at the club and you're just, some people just don't get the hint. And then it's a reminder that, hey, I don't owe you anything. You can't touch this. Pretty much.
It's pretty straightforward song. So
Oh yeah.
this is actually the first time I've had a pop sort of dance musician on the show now. It's usually rock and a bit heavier. But listening to your music, I'm glad it's you that's the first pop musician I'm having on, because your music I'm really enjoying getting into it. It's really good.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I try to put a piece of me in everything. So it really means a lot.
Yeah, yeah. You've probably heard it before, but I can kind of hear slight influences from Dua Lipa.
I love it. I've heard it before. Every time someone says it, they're like, you know who you sound like? And I'm like, waiting for it. And they're like, Julie, thank you very much. Yep, great day.
Yeah, that must be pretty great to hear all the time.
Yeah, I'm not complaining at all.
So we'll get into you then. You don't have the usual backstory. You were actually born in Albania. What was that like?
Well, I moved quickly to Germany when I was 3 months old, and then we lived there for a few years, moved back to Albania. It's a lot of back and forth. I never noticed it as instability growing up, but it is, you're moving different friends, different schools and everything. And I think that's, that helped me turn more into my inner world. And of course, music is the perfect tool for an inner world.
It is.
One thing that was across everywhere that I could, that I went, was just turn on the music station and everybody's have the same feeling, emotion, no matter what language it is. So
yeah, exactly. And what was your exposure to music like growing up?
Well, so it started with my parents and, moving back and forth so much, they only grabbed, their clothes and some of their favorite things, which happened to be a bunch of CDs. So there'd be CDs of Tina Turner, Michael Jackson, all that good stuff. That was the stuff that I would have. And the other thing is they had to keep everything pristine, because they're very these are the only things that we have. So it started from there. And then once I got into MTV,
it just took off.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. They had to try to keep me pride. I wouldn't watch TV shows or anything like that. That's what you'd catch me on the music channel.
I can't say I blame you now, to be honest. I'd be very partial to the TV or to the music channels myself growing up. Was there a definitive moment you can remember where you thought, that's what I want to do? I want to be a singer. I know every little girl wants to be a singer, but
it was actually a year after moving to the States. So it was, this next big move. We had finally gotten settled into our place. We got our TV, the one TV. And I remember putting on, it was actually a country music channel. And I saw Shania Twain. She's, man, I feel like a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember watching and just being like, yeah, I could do that. I don't mind the dressing up. I don't mind the traveling. I'm like, I don't mind that. That's something.
I remember that as well. I actually, my listeners would probably be surprised to hear that I loved Shania Twain. I've actually seen her in concert. She's, she's pretty amazing now. Even it was only, I think it was just before the pandemic, I seen her in concert, and she is just as good now as she was when she came out with Man, I Feel Like a Woman,
Oh, I believe it. She's a rock star. She's incredible. Yeah,
it
was fashion, everything. I was like, I love this whole thing. I love it. So that was the moment. And then, so I must have been 7.5, almost 8 years old. Yeah.
Oh, pretty young. And were your parents very supportive of it?
So I kept it under wraps for a long time. Being a first generation immigrant, it's about the family sacrifices and going to school, and you got to be like a doctor or a lawyer, or all like regular stereotypical things. I would try to get involved in school stuff, school plays, musicals, all that stuff, just to try to get like scratch that itch little by
Mm.
little. And I'd write on my free time. But it took a little bit, and then finally, I tried everything that they wanted me to try, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go for what I'm gonna go for.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, you wanted to do this? Why didn't you say something?
Oh. Parents can be so funny because, like you say, you just assume that they disapprove of a job like that, or ambitions like that, but then to find out that they were so supportive.
Yeah. Yeah. But they talked about it, and they're like, well, I mean, thinking back on it, like there's not much that they could have done, like immigrant parents, they're just working too. So they would have had no idea where to even start me. So I really believe everything happens the way it's supposed to. So
Yeah, yeah. It must have it must have been very beneficial though that you were actually in the States compared to Germany or Albania wanting to be a singer. I imagine it would have been very hard over there.
I completely agree. It would have been even harder than it is here. I mean, there's just so much opportunity in the States, and after you've got your ground, there's really, and but the way that social media has gone and everything, it feels like you can really launch your own music career, and kind of get yourself out there and just express yourself. So yeah, and in Albania too, I think a lot of artists only they'll put out like one song a year, and then they'll like play that song at festivals all year. So
Right. That must be a pretty short set now with one song. Would it be more so traditional music over there as opposed to, pop music?
I wonder. So I mean, I think I would have always gone a little more rebellious. That's just my nature. I do like to put in a little bit of the tradition underneath as well. But yeah, I could see how I could have a couple of more traditional songs. I've had a couple of my family members be like, "Why don't you do an Albanian song?" And I'm like, "Not my style. Sorry."
Yeah, yeah. I think you have to kind of pay homage to your roots, but you have to keep true to yourself as well and do it your own way.
Exactly. And I was raised here for the most part, and no matter what culture or language I spoke at home, at the end of the day, I'm someone who is divided. I'm sure I'm not the first generation immigrant who feels like they're too much for their home country and not enough for where they are now. And it is what it is. I like the juxtaposition. It seems to be a huge theme in my life. So I'm just gonna wrap.
Yeah, yeah. And so what were some of the first steps you took to achieving your career in music?
So I don't know if you've ever heard of the show The Voice.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was an audition. I made it all the way to New York City. Ended up missing my audition.
Oh,
Yeah, I was like, I had this moment where I just got really sad, and then I had this just clarity where I was like, well, you can either really, you can get sad and kind of you start the loops, or you could do something about it. And at that moment, I saw on the wall, it was like graffitied, like every little thing is going to be all right. And that's something that comes like from the Bob Marley song.
mhm.
And my dad used to whistle and sing that song to my mom all growing up. So I was just like, all right, I'm taking it as a sign. I'm in New York City. I'm just going to enjoy the night. And then when I get back home, I'm going to reach out to the studio that I had like been keeping an eye on for like a year, and I just hadn't made the dive yet. So I went home, reached out, and then finally started to record some of my music that I had been writing for years. And then we read the songs, try to figure out what to put out first, and trying to get like an overarching project going. And I can't even imagine if I hadn't taken those steps now. Granted, the pandemic and everything happened in the middle of everything, but I'm glad it happened when it did, because I could record those tracks out, and now I've got a ball rolling. So even with the pandemic hitting the way, it was a lot less distracting and off-putting than it might have been, if I had.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned songs you had wrote. What's your approach to songwriting? Was it something that came natural, or did you have to work at it a lot?
So I've always written when I was little. So shortly after my Shania Twain epiphany, I started to write, and I've had like notebooks filled, like all the corners completely filled in. It's varying from poems to songs, but I think that nowadays I've gotten to the point where like I stop thinking so hard about it, and I just kind of go with like a melody, and I'll just go, and then if I just let myself either free sing or free write, something like a hook or a chorus will come out. And then I just kind of hone in on that. And then, usually it's, if I like the idea, I get like a whole image in my head. From that image, I get a feeling. And then it's just about kind of flushing it out and putting it all together into a nice little.
Yeah, there's it's probably an impossible question now, but I love just throwing it out there at musicians. How do you know when a song is complete that you can't add any more to it?
That is so tough. I definitely am somebody who toys with that line of like, okay, but it can always be a little bit better. So I think at that point, it's when I start to notice that I'm trying to switch out words, that it makes absolutely no difference if I, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, well, syllable, we can change this syllable right here. And then I'm like, all right, Merlin, you need to back off, because now you're going to just change everything.
That's actually probably one of the best answers I've heard to that. Most people, they're like, oh, you just keep going, or you've realized that you have to just leave it as it is or something. But when you actually give a proper answer, when. So I like it. I like the answer.
Thank you.
And another hypothetical one then. Would you prefer to write a song that influenced, say, 500 other musicians, or sold 500,000 copies?
I'd have to say influencing 500 other musicians.
Really?
Yeah. If I wrote something that really inspired that many other musicians, I write things that I see for myself, and the way that I see it, other people who have gone through my similar struggles. And if there are musicians out there who are that inspired by what I have to say, then I will live on that way. That is totally me.
Yeah, I get you. And I think it'd mean more to you as well. You could sell the 500,000 copies, make a fortune, but when that's all gone, what do you have left?
Exactly. And I think just the idea of inspiring somebody and helping them look at something, or making them realize that they're not alone in something, it's just, that's it for me.
Yeah.
Not that selling out stadiums and world tours.
Well, the flip side of it is, if you influence that many people, that will come eventually.
That's true too. That's very true too. I am slowly releasing the reins of what I think my success should look like, and I'm just here for however it comes to fruition. So
yeah. Is there anything you had to overcome in your career to get to this stage?
Oh, a lot of self-doubt. A lot of self-doubt and self-image type stuff. I've been through some stuff, which is great for material when it comes to self. But to properly heal, and healing isn't linear, and things take time, but to properly heal and to get to the point where I can talk about things, I think that's huge. So I mean, I guess I'd have to say that I've overcome quite a bit. And that journey's not over, but so more songs that will come out of it.
Yeah, I've heard that writing songs or singing songs is almost like free therapy.
Oh yeah, definitely cathartic, especially with the free writing. I have this exercise that every day, 10 minutes in the morning, I just write. I don't judge what I write. Sometimes it's random. Sometimes I've gotten a song out of it. It's just, and sometimes it's just pure therapy. Like, see, sometimes, we put up walls to avoid what we're thinking about and, avoiding certain topics, and it's going to come out one way or another. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're definitely better making the effort to help it come out and turn it into something productive.
that's true. That's what I'm hoping for. And sometimes it's just, it's just nice to know. You're like, oh, great. Didn't realize I thought that.
Yeah, true. So your gigs, we have to talk a bit about gigs you've played. It is concerts that made us after all. Um how many gigs have you played?
Officially 3 gigs, one in France, one in New York City, and one was local. Yeah, that was a wedding in France. I got really lucky.
Ah,
Yeah, family members got married. So,
still, you've played abroad.
yeah. And then the New York City last, it was right in the financial district. So I just remember running around being like, I can't believe, like, after it was just like, that was me. That was me on the stage. That it was a great show.
Oh, I'd say so. What can people expect when they come to see one of your gigs?
I do like to talk to my audience. I like to get a feel for what's going on in the room. I got a lot of sass that comes out live. I don't know what what comes over me. Good time and good beat. And we're there
Yeah,
to party. So
exactly. And I think it might be an obvious answer, but what sort of music do you actually listen to? What inspires you?
uh I mean absolutely anything with a bass. With hard bass. I mean everything. Everything from, like I've said, to Tina Turner, Michael Jackson, to current artists like Dua Lipa. I'm a little all over the board though. I like my country, and then I like my 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 house. I'm a huge fan of music in general. So
Yeah. I think you have to be when you're a musician. It just comes naturally, you take it in from all angles.
that's so true. Yeah, I've been sitting in a Wendy's once and just bopping out to the music. I'm like, stop playing. I'm happy.
Oh, the the very first gig you played then, that must have been quite daunting, was it?
It was. It was. That was actually the one in France. So it was. The other thing is, 2 weeks before heading abroad, I had been I had like a throat issue. So I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't had time to properly practice. So the entire time I had my steam. I had all the things, all the lozenges and all the spray. Just practicing the entire time leading up to it. And I actually had to fly into Zurich. So from Zurich, I drove into the French countryside. So it was like a 4-hour drive, and I'm sitting there practicing the car. I'm just like, okay. And it was interesting. I mean, it was a beautiful venue, and I couldn't have asked for better when it comes. There wasn't much time to do sound check, so I'm just grateful that everything went well. But it's something that happens every time too. When I perform, I get really anxious right before, but the moment that I get up on stage and start to sing, it just completely dissipates. So
Yeah.
it's just that game of psyching yourself out in the beginning.
Exactly. But you need that as well. I think you need the nerves, the anxiousness beforehand, because if you're not feeling that, why else are you doing it?
I completely agree. It's like a roller coaster ride, but there's like a flow that comes out after it's like it's unmatched. It's
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you just get in the zone and just flies away with itself, so to speak. Yeah. Have you any gigs planned for the future? I know the COVID and everything must have put quite a hamper on your career, but have you anything planned?
There's something that I'm working out right now. There's possibly another gig in New York City, which I'm excited about. And there's some local gigs in Boston that I'm trying to get going for the new year. I'm hoping that by spring though, everything will get more aligned. Just because the winter, with the new strains and everything, it's just everyone's very back and forth with everything.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the stuff on the horizon, more music. So I'm so excited.
Good, good. Is there live music and everything over there at the moment? Is it all back?
It's kind of mixed because some places need everywhere has different requirements. Some places need the vaccines and the tests on top of it. So it's just and everything's kind of backed up from all the months prior. All the shows that have been rescheduled and rebooked, they're finally happening now. So hopefully by spring, some slots will open up, and then festival season in summer. Not complaining about that.
Yeah. I can't wait for that myself if it happens. We about a month and a half ago, we got the go ahead that we could have live music and bands playing and everything again. But last night, it came into action. But they announced that pubs, restaurants, live venues had to close at 8:00 in the evening. So now basically the live music industry is gone again. And that's in action until the 30th of January. So yeah.
That's tough. I mean, I understand they're trying to do stuff for the holidays so people stay safe, but that's really tough. I mean, this is the best time of year for bands and
Yeah, it really is. Then of course there was we were lucky. There was, I'd say, maybe 15, 20 concerts managed to happen late in the year. But now for next year, there's already concerts starting to be cancelled. So, when it comes to buying tickets for gigs, you're not too sure whether or not it's going to go ahead. I know I have 3 or 4 gigs that have been rescheduled already. So it's kind of cagey.
I know that's the thing. You try your best and you hope for the best, and whatever is meant to work out is meant to work out. In the meantime, just keep making new music.
Exactly. How did the pandemic affect your career?
So I had just put out my first single, and then within a month, the pandemic hit. So it was like, huge thing to get over my own personal doubts, and then finally putting out music, and everything was going well. And then, but I think in the beginning it was tough just because, like you can be going through something and then it's like, obviously this is way more important. Like, okay, well, where do I toe the line of pushing my music? And then of course, like, the world's got other things on their mind. So, I mean, it was also a good time to reflect and continue writing music and stuff. So I'm not upset about the way that it went. But it definitely, because like once you get on a roll, you get the ball going. Once you have to stop, you're like, okay. But it gives you a chance to reframe. So not too bad.
Yeah. Geez. I think you're the first person I've spoke to now who just released their first single before. It's not great timing, I have to admit,
It was literally a month before everything started to shut down here. So
that's so unlucky. But at least it gave you time to, as you said, reflect and plan. And, I hope you used the time wisely.
I did. I was very excited by everything that came out of it. Actually, the Dark Matter EP came out of it. So very fitting with the theme of everything going.
That was my next question. Would you like to tell us? That must have been very exciting releasing your EP.
Oh my God. It was so exciting. And the thing that, that happens, that I'm sure happens to other artists too, is like, the process of writing, from conception to the when the music is released can sometimes be so long that by the time that you release music, you're like, okay, I've already like up leveled. I've already changed my mindset on a couple things. And, but this was just extremely exciting to be putting out the first installment of a larger project. So I had been sitting on this one for a while, and the concept, I feel like I'm starting to have fun with them as well. It doesn't have to be so intense. Even if every track has a part of me in it, I can start to play around and stuff like that. So, and I just, the name came to me and everything. I was like, this is it. Dark Matter, magic. We've got the whole theme.
Yes. It perfectly fits your image and the name as well, Merlin, Dark Matters, because you automatically think of, mystique and wizards and witches, stuff like that. So I love the kind of the dark mythical sort of image. It's very cool.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. And even with the picture, with the photography, that was interesting. I was like, what's like someone's watching.
And how has the reception been?
It's been really good. There have been people who have been like telling me like all like, for the last year, like, all right, well, when can I listen to your track? When can I listen? I'm like, no, you gotta wait. And then came out the day of, everyone's like, oh my God, I can't believe you finally put it out. I'm excited. It's getting some good traction, and we've got a music video as well that's out. So
brilliant. I'll make sure to add the link to it in the show notes so people can check it out. Is there a song that's a personal favorite on the record?
I'd have to. I'm so torn. I'd have to go with Spiral, just because it's my softest song. It took a lot of me to even put out something like that. All of my tracks were coming out pretty fiery and pretty sassy and just, all attitude. And then the Spiral, like, I just remember like writing it out, fleshing it out and being like, I have to record this track first, and having so much resistance to it, be like, but no, I don't want to sing soft. I think it's one step in me being more and more vulnerable in music. And that doesn't necessarily mean that all my songs have to come out sounding soft. But I think it's a good step to being more honest and more vulnerable and authentic with listeners. So
yeah. I think that's something you need to do as well. Anyway, you need to make that connection with your fan base and listeners.
Yeah. So step by step.
Have you started plans? Or are you in the early process of planning your next record?
Yes, we have something planned, finishing that up, and I'm just trying to figure out concept wise if we're doing a video for it or something like that, and then starting on the next EP.
Very exciting.
The idea has already been done. It's just a matter of choosing which songs to record and put out for it. So playing with some fun ones, and the more that I put out, like I said, like by the time that I put out tracks, I kind of already up leveled in the sense of writing and recording and stuff like that. So I'm excited.
I'd say so. Will you be keeping the same kind of darker theme?
It'll definitely relate to it. But I am going to switch it up a bit. I'm doing kind of like a yin and a yang.
I see. Very interesting. It's although I suppose during the pandemic it wouldn't apply, but how do you actually balance your music with your personal life?
Well, see, it's interesting because during the pandemic, it was more of just keeping myself focused and kind of separating the day, because, like people would just things were getting so smushed together. Everyone's working from home. There's not much separation in our lives. So it was keeping on that. But it's interesting that you say that, because a topic in my life has come up recently where like some people think songs are written about them. And I'm just like, it's not about you. I've been holding tracks for a long time. These are in a sense, like I'm releasing these older versions of me. And as I catch up to where I am now, I find myself diving into a lot of different concepts. And but yeah, I just think it was interesting that you asked that, because literally in the last 2 weeks, somebody was like, was that track about me? And I was like, no, it's not about you, but I'm sorry.
That must be something musicians have to deal with a lot, though, fear of upsetting their friends, or fear of a song being too closely to someone they know. Exactly.
And or having a partner and them being like, do you hate me? What is this? Sorry, it has nothing to do with you.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say it gives me a lot more compassion for celebrities in that sense,
Yeah, definitely. Do you just made me think of something there when you said that. Do you write from a character's perspective, or is it all very personal?
So I think that when I think I do a little bit of both, because it's always very personal. But I do think that I separate myself a little bit, and I look at it as if it was a movie, or as if it wasn't me. And I think it's easier to digest some of the stuff, and also see it from a true point of view, because it's sometimes in your own head things get a little warped.
Yeah.
So I think it's always a little bit of both, but I always do like to keep the idea in mind of playing it as somebody else, because I want other people to relate to it as well. It's
Yeah.
kind of a line where, you bring people in, but you're also like, but this is you as well. So
I get you. We'll move on to the next set of questions. I'm afraid everybody gets asked them. Nobody gets off the podcast without answering them. So
bring it.
if you could see any performer from history, living or dead, in concert for one night only, who would it be?
Prince.
Really?
Prince.
I wasn't expecting that. Now I'm impressed. Why so?
I even growing up when I was little, I remember like that was one of the CDs my parents had, and I remember wanting to see him live, but it was never like, it just wasn't something that we were able to do, and now that he's gone, for sure. Yeah, Prince. The answer.
He's definitely a very understandable one. He's definitely one of the greats, just the talent that man had in his baby finger, like,
I just think I would, usually at concerts, you're little dancing, you're singing along those lyrics. I think I would just be straight, like just complete awe.
yeah, yeah. But he had it all, he was the whole package. Like, it was the image, the showmanship, the songs, obviously, it'll be hard for there to be another artist to come along like Prince.
I think he radiated everything.
Yeah. And he crossed all genres. There's, no matter who you are, you will like a couple of his songs.
Oh yeah. No, it's the authenticity was just oozing out of him at all times. So I have to respect it.
Yeah. I was it's funny you should mention him. Actually, I was only last week or the week before, I was looking at videos of him on YouTube. And did you ever see the attitude he had? He was so funny just to watch, like these little looks he'd give, or he could be really like bitchy almost. It was so funny.
Yeah, there's just complete. I feel like he just completely was himself. There was no part of him that was like, oh, what if I do this and I look this way, or what if it comes off this way? It's just, I am who I am. Take it or leave it. So
yeah. Exactly. He's that'd definitely be a goal, to be that comfortable in yourself, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, that is the goal.
Exactly. We'll move on to the next one. So if you could spend 24 hours with any performer from history, living or dead, in a room for 24 hours, as I said, who would it be?
Amy Winehouse.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Amy Winehouse. I think I just want to have a conversation with her. Like just I just want to ask her so many questions. I feel like, I mean, and you could tell from her music, but she's a very haunted soul. And I just want to kind of see how her mind works. And I love just kind of people watching and picking apart people's brains in general. So I would just want to understand her a little bit more. And in I'm assuming 24 hours in a room with somebody, you'd be able to see them in a way that they can't put up a facade for so long. These micro expressions come out. So
yeah, exactly. Sorry.
You got me thinking about that. I'm like,
Yeah, she always seems like a bit of an enigma, you know. You don't really I don't think we ever really got a peek at the real Amy, you know.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
then she has that legendary status now, the 27 Club, dying early, stuff like that. You know, it
Mm.
seems like, in one sense, it seems like she was around for a long time, but realistically, she was just a flash in the pan. You know, she was here for a couple of years and then she was gone.
100%. And I think that, but again, and the same thing with her and Prince, it's like they've got this, there's just so much energy that exudes from them,
Hmm.
like that you have to turn your head, and in different ways, of course. But um, yeah, Amy Winehouse would be an interesting person to talk to and have and grab a drink with, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Would you say she's after influencing your music in a way?
I think so. I think the way that I sometimes sing, and sometimes there's a bluntness about her lyrics that I like to hone into in myself. And I don't think I've gotten as blunt as she has, for sure, but I'd like to keep heading that way,
Hmm.
and see what comes out of it. So
Yeah, yeah. Ah, I like that. I like that answer. Now she was. I've never actually had her as an answer on the show before, so
oh,
that's definitely a first. Um, the next one. So, if there was a song that could appear on the soundtrack to your life, what would it be?
oh, oh, this is not fair. There's like 100 songs that have just popped up in the moment. You're really gonna make me choose?
I'm afraid so. It is a tough one to just spring on you, I'll admit.
It is. Oh my god, all my favorite songs popped up in my head. Dream On.
Really?
Hmm.
Why did that beat the rest so?
I just between the way that Steve Tyler sings it, I don't know. I think that's just absolutely perfect. The build up and everything. I just feel like that's my life. Just and then the huge dream on. Just yeah. I think that's perfect. Yeah.
It's a good song. It's a good song. It's an epic choice now, I'll admit. So what's uh what's on the cards for you in 2022?
So 2022, I've got so many things planned. Having to take a back seat in 2020 and do things slower in 2021. There's been some stuff that have piled on in a good way. I have some ideas for some merch that I'm trying to put out for 2022, and of course more live gigs. Uh, and yeah, just I have some more music coming out and the EP and just experimenting with my music and just maybe playing with the genres a bit, and then some choreography for some music videos, so getting in a little bit more into dancing and all that, which should be fun.
You find that tricky having to balance the singing and the dancing?
um I don't find it tricky. It's something that, again, that's like, I practice my set, and eventually I get lost in it.
Hmm.
um I think it's more about my perfectionism. I get very, like, sometimes tied up in a small detail, so it's kind of finding that balancing act of all right, well, we don't need to be spending a half hour on this one move.
That's something I've always admired about the pop genre, as opposed to, you know, rock or whatever. Because pop singers, they have to be so incredibly fit and able to move. You know, it's not like walking out on stage holding the guitar and you don't move for an hour. You know, you have to be able to balance singing, dancing, the whole show of
Exactly, and hold the note, yeah, and then jump out in the crowd.
it. Yeah. Oh, so your song Spiral is going to play us out this evening. Would you like to tell us a bit more about it?
Spiral. It came to me randomly when I was actually going on a long drive, and I just heard the hook, and it's, hello, hello, and um, it actually came together within a day. The whole track just kind of flowed out of me. Even recording it was pretty spot on, pretty simple. It's the only track though, like after I finished writing it, that I such a dramatic moment, but I had this like one tear come out and I was like, I can't believe I'm gonna put this out.
Oh my gosh.
Like I'm by myself. I'm like, Merlin, why are you crying? Yeah, it's there are definitely going to be more tracks that are softer and more vulnerable, and I think this is a perfect gateway into that. So.
Smile, running on your highs. Can you love me when you're down? Can you love me when you're down?
You built your walls so high, I'm on my tippy toes, trying to peek over. You won't give in, no way, this is so typical. How do we get closer? See, I don't want you to stay if you're just gonna take up space. And no, I don't want you to go and leave me all alone with your echo. You got me in a spiral, running on your high lows. Can you love me when you're down? Can you love me when you're out? You got me in a spiral, running on your high lows. Can you love me when you're down? Can you love me when you're out? When it burns so bright. Your love's what I'm looking for. Is my search over? When it hurts so right. Every time I try to use my head, my body takes over. See, I don't want you to stay if you're just gonna take up space. And no, I don't want you to go and leave me all alone with your echo. You got me in a spiral, running on your high lows. Can you love me when you're down? Can you love me when you're out? You got me in a spiral, running on your high lows. Can you love me when you're down? Can you love me when you're out? We're always holding ourselves back. Maybe we're scared of what we have, trying to get us on the same side, but I can't read your mind. You got me in a spiral, running on your high lows. Can you love me when you're down? Can you love me when you're out? You got me in a spiral, running on your high lows. Can you love me when you're down? Can you love me when you're out?
Do you love music? Music news and guest interviews with artists from all around the world across many different genres? My name's Nolan and I love music. In fact, I love music so much I created a podcast entirely dedicated to it called Every Podcast I Love Is Dead. Every week is a brand new episode where I interview musicians, artists, podcasters, radio hosts, and so much more. New episodes are available every Thursday on all your favorite podcast streaming platforms, and you can check us out on social media and at everypodcastiloveisdead.com. Hope you can join me.
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, rate and review us on iTunes. It really helps the show grow. You can also rate us on Spotify now. And make sure to follow us on your favourite podcast player of choice. You can check out our website at www.concertsthatmadeus.com, and if you'd like to support the show, you can do so by signing up at patreon.com/concertsthatmadeus. It costs less than what you'd pay for a coffee. So, until next time, keep rocking.
Hey, what are you guys still doing here? The show's over. It's over. You can go home. Go on. We'll see you next time. We'll be here. Bye.